Okay. Good morning, everyone. My name is Judge Tamika West Bernard. I'm presiding over the preliminary hearing in the matter of the state of Georgia versus Tamika R. Scriven. There are several charges. The first charge is warrant number 2022 CW 55297 for the charge of aggravated assault. Second charge, warrant number 2022 CW 55298 for the charge of murder. Charge number 3, warrant number 2022 CW 55299 for the charge of possession of a firearm and or weapon during a crime. Charge number, warrant number 2022 CW 55303 for the charge of aggravated assault. Charge number 2022 CW 55304 for the charge of murder. Warrant number 2022 CW 55305 for the second charge of possession of a firearm weapon during a crime. That will conclude the charges that's on the calendar for this morning. The state of Georgia will be represented by ADA Travis McDowell, and the defendant, Ms. Striven, will be represented by attorney Tiffany Pleasant. Attorney McDowell, your case.
Thank you, Your Honor. This time, state calls Jason Gant. Will you raise your right hand, please? Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Will you state your name for the record, please?
My name is Detective Jason Gant.
And Detective, where are you employed?
I work for the Clayton County Police Department on the Criminal Investigation Division.
How long have you been doing that?
I've been doing that for almost 2 years.
Will you describe to the court your current duties?
My current duty is a detective on the major felonies team. I primarily investigate homicide, rape, armed robbery, carjackings.
Were you on duty on November 27, 2022?
I was.
Did you respond to a call at 5771 Trammell Road in Morrow?
Yes, I did.
What county is that located in?
Clayton County.
And what kind of structure is at that location?
It's an apartment complex. It has townhome style apartments.
What was the nature of the call you responded to?
I was dispatched. It was a domestic disturbance with a stabbing.
Now, when you got there, what did you immediately observe?
All right. So when I got there to the scene, the suspect, Miss Tamika Scribes, just to let y'all know, the notes that I'm using is the warrant application. That's the only notes that I have here available to me. And I will be referencing them from time to time. Okay.
And Detective, if you could do your best just to answer by memory, if you
yes,
do need
yes,
to
sir, I understand, but
just
in case you see me looking down, that's what I'm looking at. Okay. So I went out to the scene. Miss Scrivens was out at the scene with officers. I asked them what happened. They told me that they had come out to a domestic call there. They said they had also been there earlier that day. They said there was a man who had been stabbed, Mr. Michael James. That man had been transported to Southern Regional Medical Center. I met with Miss Scrivens and asked her if she'd be willing to talk to me at the Clayton County Police Headquarters. She said she would be. So I had an officer take her to the Clayton County Police Headquarters. Before I had her leave the scene, I did take a look inside the apartment after she said she needed to get her keys and her purse and things, and I asked her if I could come in with her while she retrieves those things. This was to make sure that the scene wasn't disturbed. She said, yes, I could come in. We went inside. She recovered her belongings that she needed to take with her. From there, I observed the living room of the apartment. There was a table knocked over and some broken items on the floor, some broken glass items on the floor. I observed some blood on the wall. but I didn't stay in there for long. So Ms. Scrivens was then taken to the Clayton County Police Headquarters to be interviewed. From there, I left the scene and went up to Southern Regional Medical Center and saw the body of Michael James. When I observed his body, he had scratches, looked like fingernail scratches on his chest, neck. It looked like he had a blackened right eye, and he had a single stab wound to his back, lower back close to the spine.
Detective, I'm going to pause you right there and just kind of unpack some of this.
Okay.
You said you viewed the scene. Did it appear to you that it looked like a sign of a struggle?
Yes, it did. Yes, the dining room table had been tipped over on its side, and there were some broken items on the floor.
Was there also a knife observed?
I did not observe the knife.
Did any other law enforcement observe a knife?
Yes, a search warrant was executed on the apartment after I had left, and a bloody kitchen knife was located in a dish rack in the kitchen.
If you had to estimate, was that knife over 3 inches in length?
Yes, it was.
Okay. Now, you stated you responded to Southern Regional as well, to Mr. James. Did Michael James survive this incident?
He did not. He was deceased when I arrived at the hospital.
Okay. Now, Ms. Scriven gave an account of what happened. Is that correct?
Right. She did tell officers on the scene what had happened, but then I spoke to her as well at the Clayton County Police Headquarters in an interview room. This room was audio and video recorded. The interview was audio and video recorded. So when I began the interview, I advised Ms. Scrivens of her Miranda rights, and she reviewed and signed off on a Miranda rights form. And I asked her to tell me what happened. Ms. Scrivens told me about the long history of domestic abuse that had happened at the house. She told us about Michael James's alcohol problems and the fights that had happened before. She had told us how he had been arrested twice before, and they had an upcoming trial for some charges he was arrested for before. She told me how Michael James had come home today, or not today, but the day of the homicide, and he had been extremely intoxicated. She advised that they had argued about that. She said that when he came home from work, when she came home from work, they continued to argue. She told me that she had told Michael James that she wanted a divorce, and she was ready to leave him. Ms. Scrivens said that he stepped out of the room for a while. She thinks he went to take a shower. When he came back, she was on the phone. Ms. Scrivens advised that he began arguing with her while she was on the phone, and that he then began to hit her. Ms. Scrivens advised that Michael jumped on her, which knocked the table over in the dining room, got on top of her and punched her repeatedly in the face and head. She advised that she didn't know what happened next until Michael James started saying, "I'm hit, I'm hit." And then she saw that he had been stabbed in the back.
Now, what did Mr. James do at the point he was stabbed? What did Mr. James do?
He then went outside. He went out the front door. Ms. Scrivens has a Ring doorbell camera. She showed us her Ring doorbell camera videos. She showed us the video from earlier in the day when Michael had come home drunk. And then she showed us tonight. So in that video, you see Mr. James comes outside. You can see the blood on his back. You can see him sit down on the car and then eventually collapse down onto the ground. He asks Ms. Scrivens to help him. At first, she's walking around trying to get her dog that had got outside. After he asked for help, she tells him to sit there and die. She then goes on to call him dumbass multiple times, and she yells over to her aunt. Her aunt lives in the same building as her. She goes over to her aunt, tells her to call 911. She's walking around a lot during this time. She tells Michael, that's what you get. Eventually, though, while watching this video, you can hear his labored breathing, but that breathing dies down. Later, after this breathing has died down, she goes and gets a pillow, puts it under his head, and then she attempts CPR on him. And this is when the police arrive.
Okay. Now let's back up just a little bit. You stated that he's
Okay.
observed on the ring camera with blood on his back. Where was the stab wound exactly?
The stab wound was around the middle of his back, lower middle of his back, close to the spine.
Were there any stab wounds to Mr. James's front?
So when I observed Mr. James at the hospital, I saw that he had a deep laceration. I believe it was on the front or the palm area of his middle finger on his right hand. Did not observe any stabs to the torso, to the front, or his arms. So he had that cut on his hand. I can't confirm what caused that cut because there was broken glass at the scene. But other than that cut and his stab wound, he also had scratches on his neck, the black right eye, and scratches on his chest. He had another mark on his chest that I first thought might be a bite mark, but I really can't be sure.
Okay. What about Miss Scriven? Did she have any injuries?
So I observed her face and her head, as she said that Michael had gotten on top of her and punched her repeatedly in the face and head. I did not observe any injuries to her face or head, no swelling, no bruising, no redness, no abrasions, anything. I did not see any marks on her face or head. She did have broken fingernails. The middle and ring finger of both hands were broken off. And then she had a scratch on her ankle. She said the scratch on her ankle was from when the table got knocked over.
Is Miss Scriven here on the Zoom call with us?
Yes, she is.
Did you identify by a piece of clothing?
It looks like she's wearing some tan pants and a green shirt and a white t-shirt.
Your Honor, may the record reflect the witnesses identified the defendant, Miss Scriven.
Okay, so noted.
So Miss Scrivens had advised that, so during watching
hold
the
on,
video.
before you go on, let me just be a little more formal about it. Do you have anything else to add that you think might help the judge make a decision?
Yes, sir, I do. So as we watch the video, Ms. Scrivens makes several different remarks, including telling the other people who are just off screen in the video that she stabbed him and that she was tired of this shit. So during the interview, Ms. Scrivens advised that she didn't remember stabbing him, but conceded that she did stab him. She said she did in the video. So I don't doubt that there was a fight, but I just didn't see anything in my interview that would warrant deadly force. She was saying that it was self-defense, and I didn't see anything that would warrant that.
Did she state at any time that she was in fear for her life or serious injury?
So she didn't say that she was in fear of her life during this fight or during serious injuries. However, earlier in the conversation, when she was going through her history of the domestic disturbances that they had at the house, she said that Michael James at an earlier day had dropped a lit cigarette, and she was afraid that his getting drunk would burn the house down and could kill her and her dog if the house caught on fire when he was drunk.
And that was earlier in the day or immediately before the stabbing?
This was not immediately. From my understanding, it was the previous day.
Understood. Okay. Judge, I don't have any further questions.
Okay, Attorney Pleasant, your witness.
Thank you. Detective Gant, you testified on direct about a long history of domestic violence as stated by my client, correct?
That is correct.
And did you perform any investigation with regards to that statement?
Yes, so I did look at some of the past reports that had been written by officers. I don't recall the details of those reports today, but yes, there had been reports made, and I recall in one of those reports there were photographs taken from the scene.
Okay, so you were able to confirm that there is domestic history between the parties.
Yes.
And to your knowledge, has an autopsy been conducted?
To my knowledge, an autopsy probably has been conducted, but the results of that autopsy report won't be available for some time.
And to your knowledge, was a toxicology test performed on the decedent?
I don't know.
Okay. And you testified that you observed a ring video.
Yes, ma'am.
What's the length of the video that you observed?
I don't recall the length. We watched two different videos. One of the first video from earlier in the day was pretty long. The second one wasn't nearly as long, approximately 10 minutes, but I could be wrong.
And did you preserve those videos in any way?
So I made a recording of the videos with my cell phone. I plan on getting a search warrant for the actual videos to be sent by Ring.
Okay, so you're getting a search warrant for Ring to provide the video?
To provide the actual video. Yeah, I recorded the videos with my cell phone, but the picture quality is just not that great.
Okay. And did you speak to Ms. Scriven's aunt?
I'm sorry?
Did you speak to my client's aunt?
Her aunt? No, I did not speak to her aunt.
Do you know if she is in fact the one who placed the 911 call?
I don't know for a fact if she's the one who placed the 911 call.
And did you or any other officers speak to any other witnesses in this case?
I did not speak to any other witnesses in this case. I don't know what the other officers spoke to.
Did Ms. Scrivens provide a written statement?
She did not.
Was the Miranda waiver, was that provided in writing also?
Yes, it was.
Did she sign it?
Yes, she did.
And all that is on video?
Yes, ma'am.
And you said that the decedent was taken to Southern Regional initially?
The victim was taken to Southern Regional. Yes, ma'am.
Do you recall who you spoke to at Southern Regional?
I spoke to a number of staff members who were there. When I arrived, they told me that the medical examiner had already come and left. So I didn't speak to a doctor there, no.
Okay. So are they, to your knowledge, are they saying that he died on scene or he died during transport?
I believe they pronounced him dead at the hospital. I don't know specifically if he died on scene or at the hospital.
So is it fair to say you're also still waiting for reports from Southern Regional as well?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you. That's all I have, Your Honor.
Okay, ADA McDowell, any other witnesses or a redirect first?
No redirect, Judge. No, no other witnesses. The state rests.
Okay, Attorney Pleasant, any witnesses?
No witnesses. The defense rests and submits on the testimony.
Okay, ADA McDowell.
Judge, just a very brief closing. There's no doubt the victim here was intoxicated. There's no doubt there was a struggle. But what we do know is that Ms. Scrivens admits to stabbing him. We do know he was stabbed in the back. We do know he had injuries to his face. And we do know Ms. Scrivens, given by the testimony from Detective Gant, did not have injuries to her face that corroborates her story. We do believe probable cause for this exists. We would ask this to be bound over to Superior Court.
Based on the evidence presented to the court today, I do find sufficient probable cause to bind over all charges to the Superior Court of Clayton County. That will be the order of the court today, and that will conclude the preliminary hearing for Ms. Scrivens. Thank you, Attorney Pleasant, for your presentation of the case, as well as ADA McDowell.
Thank you, Your Honor. Detective Gant, thank you very much. You can